We're going to start this video off with my breakfast prep. I am making French toast muffins, actually pumpkin spice French toast muffins. The original recipe will be linked down below. The only thing different I did was I substituted a few of the ingredients and then also made them in muffins. So we're going to be using the Sara Lee 45-calorie bread. I used probably about 3/4 of the bread. I didn't count how many slices. The original recipe does say 12 cups, but I just cut it to where it looked like it was enough for me. Like I said, I used about 3/4 of a loaf. And then now we're going to use an entire dozen of eggs. I believe the original recipe calls for 10 eggs or 6 eggs, I'm not sure. And also using some creamy cashew milk. Again, just make it however you want. I think since it said 8 servings, I thought I would do more eggs because I wanted to make 12 little muffin cups using pumpkin spice, pie spice, and some vanilla. And then I'm using this Lakanto maple flavored syrup. So you're just going to put all the ingredients in there. So the eggs, the syrup, the vanilla, and the pumpkin pie spices, and the cashew milk is all going to be mixed all together. Again, all the measurements will be down below. Just going to put all that together. And then we have our our bread cubes in a big bowl. So you want to do a big bowl, and then you're just going to pour that egg mixture all over, and you want to make sure you get them all coated. Now the Sara Lee bread is really thin, so that's why I didn't want to cut them in too small chunks, because I was afraid that this bread would kind of disintegrate, if you guys know what I mean. If you've had the Sara Lee bread before, you know what I'm talking about. Like I said, it's just really thin and a little bit fragile, but I was super surprised by this, you guys. Really, really surprised. So I just continued to push it around, but I just didn't want it to soak for too long before I got it into the pan. So I did this step pretty quickly. It doesn't really look like it, but I did do it pretty quickly. Just wanted to make sure everything was all nice and coated. I'm using my silicone muffin pans that I got from Amazon. I mention this now in every video. I am having a favorites coming, an Amazon favorites video coming. I'll give you a sneak peek. These are in it. They are absolutely amazing. Love, love, love them. I will try to remember to link them down below. Remind me if I forget. I'm doing this editing pretty late at night, so let me know if I forget. But like I said, I really love these. So I'm just filling up the cups. I'm using I'm trying to look at what color my cup is there. I believe that's my 3rd cup measuring cup. So I'm using a measuring cup that's 1/3 cup, and I'm just scooping them in there. I'm just filling up your muffin tins. That's really what you need to do, is just fill them up. So I'm going to continue to do this. I thought I was going to make 12, but it actually ended up making 24. My goal was to make 12 of them, but it made 24 of them. So it was actually a nice surprise. So I'm just going to continue putting these in there, and then we'll put them in the oven. Now, as I said earlier, the original recipe I was using was actually for a casserole dish, so it said to bake it at 350 for about 30 minutes. I thought the muffin cups may take a little bit less time, but I was wrong. So I started off with 20 minutes. They were not quite cooked through. They were still really runny and gushy. So I did 25 minutes. Again, they still were not quite cooked through for my liking, so I ended up doing 30 minutes, and they turned out perfect after 30 minutes. Look at these, you guys. They are so good, but I wanted to wait till they cooled completely, because I did try to kind of move them out of there, but they were still a little soft. So I let them cool completely, and then I just put 2 of the little muffins in each bag, and that is a serving. So I'm doing 2 little muffins in a bag, and I'll have those for breakfast along with like yogurt, or may add some syrup with that as well. But these are fantastic. The next thing I am prepping is going to be a lunch, which is a spicy chickpeas with some quinoa on the side. So first thing we want to do is prep the quinoa. So quinoa you need to rinse really well, or let it soak till it gets kind of I don't know why you do it. I think it can be kind of dirty and gritty. So I just have a cup of quinoa, which a cup of quinoa goes a long ways. It's been so long since I've made quinoa that I forgot that. I ended up with way more quinoa than I needed. But I'm just taking like a cup of warm water, and I'm just going to let that kind of soak for a little bit, for about 10-15 minutes, just till it gets nice and clean. And then I'm using this vegetable broth from Organic Imagine. I love this broth. Look at the color of it. Isn't that absolutely amazing? So we're going to actually cook the quinoa in this. It'll give it so much flavor. So I'm just putting that cup of vegetable broth. I'm going to bring that to a boil, and then we'll add in our quinoa. As soon as you get the quinoa in there, it's super easy. Once you get your boil, add your quinoa, and then you're going to give it a good stir. And then you're just going to put the lid on there. You want to drain your quinoa, by the way. Forgot to mention that. So I'm just using this sieve to take the quinoa out of the water so it's nice and drained. And then you're going to, just like I said, bring that to a boil, put the lid on there, let it simmer for about 20 to 25 minutes until all the water or the broth is absorbed, and then you'll fluff it up with a fork. Okay, so in my skillet here, I'm going to add in a little bit of avocado oil, and then we're going to add in some onions so we can start with our spicy chickpeas. Love chickpeas, garbanzo beans, whatever you call them. They are great for your protein, and just if you want to do like a non-meat protein, they're really good that way. I'm adding some onions and some minced garlic in here. We're just going to stir that around until the garlic gets nice and fragrant. Then we're going to add in a can of garbanzo beans that's been drained and rinsed. And then I'm doing a can of fire roasted tomatoes. And with that, we're going to give that a good stir. You can use whatever kind of tomatoes you like. I'm going to post the original recipe down below. I don't think it called for fire roasted tomatoes, but that is my favorite in spicy things. So that's why I'm adding the fire roasted in that. So I'm just going to give that a good stir. And then next we're going to add in our spices, which I'm going to add in some cumin. I don't really measure them. I think it says a teaspoon in the original recipe, but check that out so you can know your measurements. But after you get cooking and stuff with different spices, you kind of get to know them. And for me, I kind of know how much cumin to put in recipes. You don't put as much as you think because it is pretty spicy. Same with red pepper flakes. Go easy on these. I love a spice, but even I sometimes can be a little bit heavy-handed with these, so go easy on them. So you want to go ahead and add your spices in, add any salt and pepper that you want to add in there as well. I'm going to add in about a tablespoon of tomato paste. I love this tomato paste in a tube. It makes it so much easier to just have just this tube and you don't have to open up a can. I only buy the cans when I need to use the entire can for a recipe. Otherwise, I just keep these tubes in my refrigerator. I can just squirt out a tablespoon. It's amazing. You want to go ahead and cook this down a little bit until that moisture is mostly absorbed, and there you go. So I'll just serve this with a little bit of the quinoa, a little bit of the chickpeas, and that'll be a great lunch. For my last lunch for the week, I am making some green chili enchiladas. These are my favorite kind of enchiladas. I love them. I'm doing a shortcut this week. I'm going to be using a rotisserie chicken. Take the shortcuts all you want, you guys. I had a really busy weekend, but I still wanted to make sure I meal prepped and made some whole healthy food, so I grabbed a rotisserie chicken. This was a small one that I got at my local grocery store, so it did not have a lot of meat. It's not like those ones from Costco that makes like 2 pounds of meat. No, this was a small one, but it's a perfect amount. So I just diced that up really finely because for me, I like whenever I have like enchiladas, I like them to be a little bit diced up finer than what you sometimes have when you go into a restaurant. You get that big chunk of like chicken breast. I don't know. For me, I like it to be cut up really fine. We are going to add in 1 cup of some sort of cheese. I'm using this reduced fat Mexican style blend cheese. You can use whatever kind you want. And then I'm adding in 2 cans of diced green chilies. Again, these are green chili enchiladas, so you want quite a few green chilies. So I'm using 2 cans, or you can use like one of the larger cans, but I had 2 of these small cans to use. So I'm going to add those in there. Give it a really good stir till you get all that cheese and green chilies all mixed together really well. We're going to add in some salt and pepper, of course. Sometimes I don't say that in my recipes, but I do add in salt and pepper to everything I make. Now, I'm using a combination of this green chili enchilada sauce from Los Palomos, I think, and then also I had this can of salsa verde from Trader Joe's. I knew I wanted to make a bigger batch because this is for more than one person, so I knew I wanted, there you go, Las Palmas green chili sauce. So I'm putting these on the stove. I'm going to heat this up because I'm going to kind of use this to soften up my tortillas a little bit. My original plan was to use the extra thin corn tortillas that I had that left over that I needed to use up, but they disintegrated in the sauce. I'm kind of showing here a little bit. I actually thought I took this clip out, but I guess not. We'll just show you. They literally disintegrated. I don't know if it's going to show how bad they were. But luckily, I had some of the tomorrow wraps from leftover from a few weeks ago that were still good. I had them in the refrigerator. Yeah, look at that. It just falled completely apart. So don't use these. So instead, I'm going to use these tomorrow carb-wise premium white. I had 6 of these left, which was exactly what I wanted to have, because I had some other tortillas that I needed to use up that my son can have. He doesn't need the carb-wise ones like I do. So I'm just taking the tortilla and just dipping it in the sauce. This is kind of a trick that I learned actually when I was in high school, and a few years after high school, I worked at a Mexican restaurant for like 6 years. And they always did their enchiladas this way. They always dip the tortilla in there first and kind of softens it a little bit. And actually, the recipe that I'd used 2 different recipes to kind of to share with you guys on this. I kind of just did my own thing, but in those recipes, I think one of them actually says to put the tortilla in the sauce, which is the first time I've ever seen that. So I'm putting a little bit of that chicken mixture. I did about a 1/4 cup of the chicken mixture down the middle. I did a tablespoon of sour cream. I just had a 1/2 tablespoon thing. What do you call it? Measuring spoon. And so I just put 2 scoops of that in there, added a little bit of the sauce in the middle because I wanted to be saucy, and that's how I make them. So you just continue doing that until you have all your tortillas. Now again, enchiladas typically are corn tortillas, but you have to go with what you have to go with, and these turned out really good. So I did a full pan using the tomorrow wraps, and then I did a smaller pan using the other wraps that were not low carb, and I want to keep track of those. So you want to pour the rest of your sauce all over the top of the tortillas, but since we dipped them in that sauce, then you know that every tortilla has a little bit already on there, which is great. Now I have 2 cups of cheese remaining. You want to use 3 cups total for this recipe, so I'm just doing the other 2 cups on both of my pans here. I'm only showing you this pan because it's the only one that's in the camera shot, and is the one with the lower carb, lower calorie tortillas. Anyway, so I'm just sprinkling that cheese on there. This is going to oven at 350 for about 20 minutes or so. You're really just melting the cheese because the rest of this is all cooked. So you don't really need to do it very long, but you just want to make sure you watch it so your cheese doesn't get too crispy, which is what I do a lot of the time. To go on the side of these meal preps, I'm going to do some of these refried beans, and because I'm not eating these right now, I'm not even going to heat up the beans. I'm just going to scoop out a 1/4 cup and put each of them into my little containers here. Here are the finished enchiladas. What I'll be doing is taking one of those full enchiladas, cutting them in half, and putting each one in the meal prep container, and they will look like this. So I have 1 whole enchilada cut in half, add the 1/4 cup of refried beans, and this is a fantastic lunch. It is so good, you guys, so good. So thank you guys as always for taking time out of your day to watch my video. Please check the description box for links to everything, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.